And thank you for joining me today. Today we are going to be working on this forget-me-not granny square. I am going to be showing you in this tutorial all the elements of the square, the different rounds, how to change colors, and a few tips on working symmetry for flowers. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get into this granny square motif. This granny square is made using 5 different rounds, and we are going to be starting that now. To make this square, you are going to need a lightweight DK yarn, and today I'm using Acacia from Hobbii. I'm using color white and this print color, which is called Fresh Breeze, as well as you are going to need a 6mm crochet hook and a pair of scissors. To create this granny square motif, we're going to be working in sections. We're going to be starting with the inner circle, then adding these blue petals, and then squaring off in white. So the center circle that we're going to be starting with consists of 10 double crochet stitches. The second round is going to be 2 single crochet stitches worked into each of that first round. Then we're going to be adding these blue petals where we create some shaping. And then we're going to be adding the white where we square off the granny square. So to get started, you're going to use your center color for the flower, and I'm using Acacia print from Hobbii in color Fresh Breeze. I'm creating a slip stitch, which I'm going to add onto my crochet hook. And you can create a magic circle here, but what I like to do for any granny square is to chain 3, and into that first chain space, pull the yarn through for a slip knot. This creates a little hole for you to start working into. And we're going to be working 10 double crochet into this space. So to begin, we're going to chain 3, which counts as 1 stitch, yarn over, insert your hook into the hole, grab the yarn, pull it through the hole. You now have 3 loops on your hook. Pull the yarn through 2 of those loops, pull the yarn through 2 more of those loops, and now you've completed your double crochet. So you now have 1 complete double crochet and your chain 3 here. This counts as 2 stitches. You're going to work 8 more double crochet until you have 10 stitches. You can see that I've worked 10 stitches here, and if you want to just be sure to count them before you get started with the next row. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can also see that the different print of the Acacia print has started to work in here. To close this round, I'm going to work under that chain 3 for a slip stitch by pulling the yarn through like so. For the next round, we are going to be working into each of those stitches. So we are going to chain 1, which counts as a stitch here, and into that same chain space, you're going to work into the chain space for 1 single crochet. So grab the yarn and pull it through both loops. You now have 2 stitches here. You can see the stitch heads. If you find it helpful, you can place a stitch marker here to help you identify the start of the round. So we've worked 2 single crochet into that space. We're then going to be working 2 single crochet all the way around. So into this first stitch head, we are going to go under both loops, pull the yarn through, and complete a single crochet. Into that same stitch space where we just completed that single crochet, we're going to work 1 more single crochet. So you have 2 single crochet squeezed into the same stitch space. We now have 4 single crochet, 2 in the stitch we've just done and 2 in that turning chain. You can count the stitch heads here to see how many stitches you have. Into the next stitch, we are going to be working another 2 single crochet. insert the hook, pull the yarn through, pull through both loops. One more time, a single crochet. So we're just working single crochets into the 10 double crochets we had previously. And when you finish this round, you should have 20 single crochets completed. Once you have your 20 single crochet completed, you can be sure to count them to make sure that you have the correct stitch count. To close the round, you're just going to work under that first chain that we did that counted as the first stitch. Insert the hook here, pull the yarn through, and you're just going to pull it to be a slip knot to create your circle. We are now going to get started with the petals. The petals are worked in a series of stitches that's based on symmetry. To build slightly up to the tip of the petal and then slightly back down. Between these two stitches, we are going to be working the same motif for each petal to create 5 petals. This consists of 2 rounds. You're going to be first chaining a space to create this opening. And then in the second round of the petals, we're going to be working into that chain space. That's what gives these flowers this identifiable gap in between the petals. So to get started, it's going to be a series repeat between these 2 stitches here in the chain space. So we're going to be working a single crochet, chaining 4, and then another single crochet as we've skipped 3 stitches here. We're going to repeat that 5 times around. Let's see how that looks. On our circle to begin the next round, where we've left the yarn attached, we are going to work into that same space our first single crochet. And I'm working a single crochet here because I'm going to follow it with an immediate chain space. So work a single crochet there. Again, you might find it helpful to use a stitch marker to identify this stitch. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to want to place your next single crochet. So to do that, we're going to skip 3 stitches. This is the stitch where this working yarn is coming out of, so we're not going to count that one. We're going to count the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip those, and into this 4th stitch, we are going to insert the hook to work 1 single crochet. You can see we now have a little chained space here. We're going to do that again to continue the petals of this flower. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip 3 stitches on the circle. 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th stitch is where we're going to work our single crochet. We now have 2 chain spaces created here. We're going to do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip 3. 1, 2, 3. Work into that 4th space, a single crochet, and now we have 3 chain spaces created. Continue doing that around the circle until you have 5 of these chain spaces to work the petals into. Once you get to the single crochet where you started, so I've gotten to my last space here, I'm going to skip these 3. I'm going to work my last single crochet, or really a slip stitch, into where I started, because that already counts as a single crochet. I don't need a double single crochet there. So I'm going to insert under the loops of my first single crochet that I started this round with and close there. You can see that you now have a wider circle that, if you pull on these chain spaces, is where we're going to work the petals into. To work the next round, we're going to be giving the petals shape. This is all about symmetry. So we're going to be working our stitches between the single crochet points of this round that we've just completed into the chain 4 space where this loop is. So to get started, we are going to be working into these petal spaces. We're going to chain 1, work a half double crochet, which is this low point of the petal. Work 5 full double crochets to give it height, and repeat the symmetry with 1 half double crochet here before chaining and working into that single crochet. So let's see how this looks getting started. For this round, I'm going to chain 1, and into this chained space, we're going to work the petal. So I'm going to yarn over for a half double crochet. Into that chain space, I'm going to pull the yarn through, so you have 3 loops on your hook, and I'm going to pull through all those loops. This gives me a stitch that's not quite as high as a double crochet, but is higher than a single crochet. I'm then going to work 5 double crochet into this chain space. So yarn over, put your hook through the chain space, grab the yarn, pull through 2 loops, and pull through the next 2 loops for a double crochet. You can see how the stitch height here has really built. So I now have a chain 1, a half double crochet, and 1 double crochet. I'm going to work 5 double crochet. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To complete the other part of the petal that's going downwards, I'm going to put 1 other half double crochet. So yarn over and into the same space, pull the yarn through to complete a half double crochet. Chain 1, and into the single crochet from the previous round between these 2 petal spaces, I'm going to slip stitch into that single crochet. This gives me 1 petal created. To work that again, I'm going to chain 1, and into the next chain space here, which is my second petal, I'm going to work a half double crochet, followed by 5 full double crochets. 1, 2, need to pull a little yarn here, 3, 4, 5, and into that same chain space, I'm finishing with a half double crochet on the other side. A chain 1, and then slipping into that next single crochet. So it's really all about symmetry here when it comes to flower petals. You can see I now have 2 flower petals created. We're going to be working the same way for the next 3 petals. Now that you see the motif, you can feel free to move on, but I'm going to keep going with you here so that we get the hang of it. Chain 1, into this next chain space, we're going to be working our half double crochet first, followed by 5 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, finished with 1 half double crochet, chain 1, and into the single crochet of the previous round, slip stitch. We now have 3 petals created. Chain 1, half double crochet, 5 double crochet, half double crochet, chain 1, slip stitch. You now have 4 petals created. At the point where you've completed your 5th flower petal and you've worked that half double crochet and you're going to chain 1, you're just going to slip stitch into that originating single crochet. At this point, I'm going to change colors, so I'm going to cut my blue yarn here and I'm going to introduce the white color to square off, and I'm using plain Acacia solid in white. To attach the white yarn, I'm just going to attach it to my hook as I normally would, and I'm going to be working into where I left the yarn off in the blue color. Pull the yarn tight. I'm going to put the blue yarn tail behind me as well as the white yarn tail. Hold those to the back. And then into that single crochet slip stitch that I left off on, I'm actually going to be working 1 single crochet. This is how I like to do color changes. You can also just slip stitch here, but I find it really secures the yarn if you just work a single crochet through all the loops on your hook. To begin this next round of squaring off, we're going to be working into each of the petals for 2 rounds of white. So to do this, we are going to chain 4, which counts as a treble crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. A treble crochet gives us height between the flowers. You can see that here the treble crochet is here and here. So the treble crochet is at the low point of the petals. So we are working a treble crochet, 1 double crochet into the top of the stitch heads here. Now we had a chain 1 space on the previous round. We're not going to be working into that one. We're actually going to be working into the top of the half double crochet. We're going to work first a double crochet. So we now have 2 stitches, a treble and a double crochet. Into the next stitch, which is the first of these 5 double crochets, we're going to be working a half double crochet. So before, when we built height, we started at the low point and worked our way high. Now we're starting our way high and working our way low across the petals. We're going to be working 3 single crochet into the next stitches. 1, 2, 3. Into this next stitch, we're going to be working a half double crochet. And into the stitch head here, we're going to be working a double crochet. The treble crochet is going to be worked into the space here, which is the single crochet from the previous round. So to do that, yarn over twice. You have 3 loops on your hook for the treble. Go into the stitch head here. Pull the yarn through, so you now have 4 loops. Grab the yarn, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops. So you can see working across the petal, we've started with the chain 4 here, which counts as a treble crochet. We've finished with a treble crochet. We have a double crochet after that on both sides. Working inwards, we have a half double crochet on both sides and 3 single crochet along the top of the petal. Because these flowers are all about symmetry, you're going to be working the same series of stitches across each petal from the low points. So we've just completed our treble crochet, so we're ready to move on to the double crochet. So you're going to be working into the next stitch space a double crochet, followed by a half double crochet, followed by 3 single crochet, repeat a half double crochet, and a double crochet before closing this low stitch point with a treble crochet. This is where we yarn over twice, work into the single crochet from the previous round, pull the yarn through 2 loops, 2 more loops, 2 more loops. So you can see that we've kind of flanked the petals here to give them a sharp edge. This edge is going to be completed on the next round to make it a full square. Go ahead and work in this way following the written pattern instructions all the way from low point to low point until you reach the beginning. Double crochet, half double crochet, 3 single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble. Complete this around working double crochet, half double crochet, 3 single crochets, and then repeat it on the other side for a half double crochet, double crochet, and a treble. When you come to the point of closing your round and you are at the beginning right here where we had the chain 4, you're not going to work a second treble, you're just going to close the slip stitch into that chain 4 space. So I just work into the chain space to pull through for a slip stitch. And you can see we've given this 5-petal flower a hexagonal shape here. And what we're going to do to make it a square is work another round on top of the hexagon shape. And what we're going to be doing is filling in these corners. So to get started, leaving the yarn attached, we're going to be working the second round of white. We're going to chain 1, which counts as a stitch here. And we're not going to be working into the chain space, but into the first stitch head. Single crochet. So the chain 1 counts as a stitch, and then you have a single crochet, so you have 2 stitches here. You can use a stitch marker at this point to help you identify the start of this round if you find it helpful. So we're going to be working a half double crochet into the next stitch, followed by a double crochet, followed by into the next space a series of 2 treble crochet. So yarn over twice, treble crochet, chain 2, this counts as the corner, and treble crochet again into that same space. So 2 treble crochet all into the same space. This counts as the corner of our granny square that you can see here. This is where I have the 2 trebles and the chain 2. You'll see how this is taking shape in a moment, but we've started with 2 single crochet, half single crochet, half double crochet, and 2 treble crochet. And now we're going to be working along this part of the square. So for this portion, we've just started here. We've worked along this flat end and we've worked 2 treble crochet, which counts as the corner here. We're now going to be working between these 2 treble crochet along the flat side of the square between the next 2 treble crochet. So it's all going to be a repeat of stitches working inward and then outward. So where we left off, we are now going to square off the granny square. So from the 2 treble crochet, we're going to be working a double crochet, a half double crochet, And then here we're going to be working into these single crochet spaces. We are going to be working 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After the 5 single crochet, we're going to be working into the corner again. So it's the inverse of what we've just done. So a half double crochet, a double crochet, and then those 2 treble crochet to create another corner. Into that same space, you're working 2 treble crochet. So you can see that we've rounded 1 full side and made it square on this side. It's 2 treble crochet, 2 treble crochet on either end, working inwards, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and then 5 single crochet. We're going to be doing this along each side to make this a square. Now that we've worked 2 full corners, we're going to work along this next side. So we've left off at a corner, which is here, the 2 treble crochet into the same space. We're then going to be working to the center of this side and then outward towards this next corner. So into the next space, we're going to be working a double crochet, followed by a half double crochet in the next space, followed by 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, working upwards towards the next corner. And when I say upwards, I mean we're building stitch height. We're going to be working a half double crochet, a double crochet, and then into this next stitch, we are going to be working 2 treble crochet. So treble, chain 2, treble again, all into that same space. You now have a 3rd complete corner created. So what do I mean when I say about building stitch height? We're starting at our lowest point here, which are the single crochets, and we're working outwards towards the treble crochets. The treble crochets are our highest or longest stitch in comparison to the single crochets. So from the single crochets, which are the short stitches, we're working a half double crochet, which gives us a medium height. We're working a double crochet, which gives us a full height. And the treble crochet gives us an extended height. So we're really working downwards as if it were kind of a ramp, building the square of this flower. Keep that in mind when you're working if you get confused on which stitches are supposed to come next. Let's complete the other side of this flower. We've left off at the corner, so next we're going to be working a double crochet, a half double crochet, 5 single crochet, and then up the next side towards the next corner, we're going to be working a half double crochet, a full double crochet, and then here's where we have the 2 trebles into the next stitch. Chain 2, and then another treble into that same space. So that gives us 4 corners of the granny square. And we're just going to complete along this last row where we started. Where we started is here. If you have your stitch marker here, it helps you identify. But we've started with the 2 single crochet before working a half and a double in our trebles. So we're going to be meeting here. So where we left off, we're going to be working a double crochet, a half double crochet, and then instead of 5 single crochet, we already have 2 that we started with. So we're really going to be working 3, and you can see the 3 remaining stitch heads here. So work 1, 2, 3, and then into that first chain, which will count as a stitch, we're just going to be working into it for a slip stitch. Go ahead and cut your yarn here. You can use your preferred method to sew in any ends to your granny square. I'm just going to loosely bring some of my yarn ends together and tie them in a weaver's knot, which for me is tying it one way, bringing the opposite string through for the second time, and bringing the opposite string through for a third time. Pull it really, really tight. Cut it close to the knot. And I'm just gonna do the same for my colorful yarn here. I'm working under the back side of the granny square to just loosely bring it through. I'm just going to create a knot here. You can prefer to use a tapestry needle and sew your ends in that way. There's a bunch of different methods for sewing in ends here. And there you have it, a beautiful forget-me-not granny square that you can use for any project, like a scarf, a blanket, or even if you wanted to create a whole garment out of them. Granny squares are great because they have geometrical sides, and so you really have a lot of creativity when it comes to granny squares. Thanks so much for following along to this tutorial, and you can find more of my granny squares and granny square designs on my channel at YouTube and also at my Etsy shop. Thanks so much for watching.